Hey friends, it's Tammy. It's been a while. I have been a little bit under the weather and haven't gotten a video out in the last week and a half. So today I'm going to try to play a little bit of catch up, and I'm going to be working on doing my first charcuterie board. I've been seeing them and admiring them. I've been seeing them out on the market for sale, and I just want to do one. And this one here, I'm going to hope that it turns out well, because my daughter has been looking at them as well and admiring them. And so if it works out well, she'll be getting one for Mother's Day. So today I'm going to be using pigment Antique Lace from Color Joy or Dryer Days Art Studio. It's one of my favorites of hers. I'm also going to be using a mica that I got off of Amazon. This one's chestnut, and it's kind of a grayish green color. I've never mixed it before, so what it looks like as a powder is going to look different than what it does mixed. And avocado, which is a dark green. I'm also prepared to use some Iridron gold, which is, this is a pale rich gold, which is a floating gold pigment. And let me think, possibly going to use a little bit of gold Gala Glitz from Dryer Days Art Studio. I'm using the wrong side of the microphone here. Gold Gala Glitz, which is like a very sparkly glass glitter. And mind you, this is only going to be used on the top portion of this board, not the user part of the board. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and mix my epoxy off screen. Y'all have seen me do that millions of times. And so I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my pigments mixed, and I am ready to pour. You will see that I have some blue painter's tape marking the areas in which I want to keep as my margin. And I want to stay within that line. And here I'm showing you my pigments that I have mixed. The first one was my avocado. The second one was the chestnut, and the whitish one was Antique Lace, and then my Iridron gold. So I'm just kind of starting with more of a wavy motion with my darkest green pigment, the avocado, and I'm making sure that as I run my resin over the board that I'm starting from off the board and then across and then off the board again. This ensures that the pigment also runs over on the sides of my piece. So now I'm just going in and laying a little bit of that chestnut. And some of my Antique Lace, which my hope is to stay pretty light on this and use the green as more accent. But in the end, I feel like I see a lot more of the green than anything else, but winded up loving the end result anyways. And I don't really have much of a plan as I'm doing this. I'm just kind of going with the flow, just as I feel I need to do it. Laying it down. Just went in with my gold pigment. And I'll just be going back and forth, making sure that I've got good coverage along my edges there, my sides. It just leaves a cleaner line towards the back, or excuse me, towards the edges, so that if you stop short of those edges, then it shows in your work. So you do want to go over the edge of your board when you're pouring. At least that's my preference. And so I allowed my pigments to sit for about 10 to 15 minutes before I began this process. I wanted it to be on the thicker side. I didn't want a ton of run off. I wanted my pigments to pretty much stay where I laid them. And so I've picked up some of the runoff and placing it on the edge there. And if you've worked with resin before, you know that resin goes where resin is. And so if there's resin for it to follow, then it will do that. So basically I'm just touching the edges occasionally with my finger with some resin on it, so that the resin on the top will flow over if need be. And here I'm just kind of going in with some finer lines of that gold into the antique lace pigment. And I'm just tapping along the sides or the edges of my board, just to encourage again that runoff. And running my finger up under the board as well. The back side of my board is taped to catch any of the under drips of the resin. And so for the next hour after you pour this, you really need to come about every 10 or 15 minutes and run your finger underneath the board like that as well. And that'll prevent any large drips from accumulating underneath of your project. So I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of my torch. I didn't want to heat my resin up too much because I had already thickened it. But in the end, you will note that in doing so, it did create enough movement in my resin that the green area there took over that white considerably, and I still wound up liking it in the end, but I did bring in a little bit more of the off-white or the antique lace. And so it just takes a little bit of monitoring of your resin and making sure that you're managing that runoff. I poured way too much resin here. I think I mixed about 4 ounces. 2 ounces was more than enough. So I had quite a bit of runoff for this particular piece. In hindsight, I would do half that much. Here I'm just adding on some of the it's like a gold glass shards, gold Gala Glitz from Dryer Days Art Studio, and it will give a lot of pop and shine when the light hits it. So I'm just laying some of that down here and there, not a lot of it at all, and then just hitting it with a little bit of the clear resin that I had, just to coat, make sure there's no sharp edges poking up. And you can see here that the green is pushing its way up, and I'm losing a lot of that antique lace color. All right, now I'm going to be using some shell veneer, and it's this veneer I get from Laura's Art Studio, or yeah, Laura's Art Corner, and this is very thin. It's the opalescent part of shell, and it's cut very thin, almost like a wafer thin or paper thin. And so I'm breaking off some of the pieces and laying it into the resin, and it will give it kind of some opalish shine. And it may be a little hard to see what I'm doing just because of the colors of the shell veneer. And again, I'm just managing that runoff. Okay, so it's the next morning, and my piece has had time to dry, and I am taking my Krylon leafing pen and making gold marks along my resined areas, just to give some variation, more layers, more interest. I really want it to break up that green. You can see how far up the green came by the time it did dry, and so I'm just trying to break that up a little bit. I lost so much of the antique lace color. So I decided I didn't like some of the lines, so I'm just going to go ahead and spray some 97% isopropyl alcohol and just wipe that right up with a baby wipe. And it's much easier to do if it's not had a chance to completely dry, but the alcohol does wonders as well. And I'm just cleaning up other areas that I may have touched. You can see that I added some more of the shell. I did that off camera, and I apologize for that. I thought I was still rolling, and my phone stopped. I must have run out of battery life, but I did add just a little bit more of that shell. So here in my hand I have opalite. I've played with it this morning before turning on video, and thought I was going to add that to give it some texture. But it really kind of gets lost in this, and I don't think it's going to do it justice. So I'm going to try to find some other types of textures after I've finished using my pen, and seeing what else I can use to bring a more artisan feel to this piece. I really want it to look more upscale. These pens have kind of a chiseled tip on them, so you can turn them on the side and it'll make a thin line, or you can use it as it's intended and make a thicker line. Here I am. I have gone ahead and chosen some different textures rather than using the opalite, and this is glass stones. They're just chunks of glass, and it looks like they have almost a semi-gloss, almost a spray paint on them, satin. I've already gone ahead and laid some on my board just to see if I'm going to like it, and I think I'm going to go with this. And so I've gone ahead and put some mounds of it along my board here and there in a very random pattern. But this is basically a base filler, and I got this particular bottle of it from Dollar General, and it's where they keep their flowers and their craft supplies, but you can also probably find some at Hobby Lobby, maybe Michael's, I'm not sure. I'm also going to go ahead and add some more of this gold Gala Glitz glitter from Dryer Days Art Studio, and this, whereas the other one has a satiny finish, this has a very sparkly finish, and I'm just going to sprinkle some of this in and around the other gold. And then here is that shell, the shell veneer that I was talking to you about, so that hopefully you can see more of the width and depth of what I'm working with. It's just very, very thin. It looks like it's just been shaved right off, and they break easily with your fingers, and so, or you can cut it with a pair of scissors even, to a shape that you might want. So I've mixed up some more of my antique lace to try to reclaim some of this color back into my piece. I like it the way it is, but I still want it to be lighter and brighter. I also mixed up more of my avocado. And more of my Iridron gold, pale gold. I did not mix up the chestnut in this batch. So today I'm using the Amazon, sorry, not Amazon, Amazing Clear Cast Plus from Illumilite. I believe I purchased this from Hobby Lobby for $29.99. And like I said, you really only need about 2 ounces for this project. And I really like the way the shell veneer glistens. You can see how it picks up different lights, and really is just beautiful. It has a lot of depth to it. Alright, so I'm taking my avocado and I'm adding that as accent color in and around my stones here. And again, making sure I tap in on those sides. Just really wanted the green to be that pretty darker color. And so because we have the texture here, kind of helps keep it in line of where I want it to be. Again, I let my resin set up for about 15 or 20 minutes before I began putting it on my board, because I really wanted this to stay put. I just don't want it to travel very far. Here I'm adding some clear. I'm putting it over those shell veneer areas to really help magnify the beauty of them. And I'm also drizzling some of the clear over the stone areas, the glass stones. And you really just need just a touch of resin through there. The resin only has to touch it and another piece or the surface in order for it to work. You don't need to drown it in the resin. You really kind of lose the texture when you do that. So And you can tell where you've put the resin and where you haven't, because the surface will look wet when you have already put resin on it. Now I've cut in a couple of pieces of my shell veneer and laid it on top as well of the mounds of gold glass. Hopefully you can see that. I just added some more of that shell veneer. And I'm really just trying to make sure that the flat surfaces of this board stay nice and flat, and that I don't have any gaps in the resin, this resin and the previous resin, making sure that I have full coverage here. And because I have so many areas, it's tricky. You got to make sure that you get it all. And now I want to run this gold up along the margins of where I have the gold glass stone. I like the effect that gives. And while I have a moment, let me invite you to please give me a like, and I'd love for you to subscribe. I'd love to bring as much content like this to you as I possibly can. And it becomes very, very helpful if you comment or like, and I have interaction on my page. And so I try to give you content in which you can go and have enough information to create your own and inspire you to create, your own thing. So this is pretty easy, actually, and the biggest part is that you really need to wait a little bit of time for your resin to begin to thicken so it stays where you want it to go. So if you don't mind, I'd really appreciate the subscription and also a like and maybe a comment if you would. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for continuing to come and watch and support my channel. I'm very new to YouTube and I am trying to grow. Invite your friends. I'd love to have them. I am a multimedia artist. I work with several different mediums: acrylic, watercolors, soft pastels, inks, resin and glass, just to name a few. Sometimes on my channel you will see me paint in either watercolor or acrylics. I haven't done any soft pastels yet, but I'm thinking on the lines of doing that. It's just a little bit more difficult to have a shorter video with soft pastels. So if you're someone who would like to learn lots of different types of art forms, then this is probably your channel. All right, I'm going to do a really quick heat gun here, and that's it. Nothing more, because I don't want that resin to heat up too much and move. I like where it's all sitting now. And I'm going to add a little bit of that more clear where I feel like I need it. And I'm really just kind of, at this point, looking at my board really well, making sure that I have good coverage with this second layer of resin, and making sure there's no gaps in it at all. So I'll just let this rest and we'll see where we are in the morning. Okay friends, it's the next morning and my piece is dry enough for me to show you what it looks like. I'm pretty happy with it. I'll probably add a little bit more of the gold lines to it that got covered up by this last layer. We'll see. I don't know. I'm actually kind of happy with it the way it is. But I'm going to turn you down and let you see the final result. All right, hold on. If I can get it, my thing to cooperate here. There we are. And here it is. And we'll definitely be sure to take pictures of this out where you can have a better look. The lighting today is not the best either, so anyways, I'm pretty happy with it overall. And here's some of the dimension, hopefully you can see. Let me turn my studio light on, that might have a little bit of extra. And so that's my first Char Cuttery board or cheese board or cutting board or whatever it is that you want to call it. It's a long one and I've enjoyed making it, and I'll probably make more. My next piece is probably going to be a Lazy Susan, and I'm looking forward to doing that as well. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the pictures that I'll show of this piece, and we'll see you the next time. Take care.